founder, EduLabs Private Limited, Dr. Manoj Mishra, founder and CEO, GenNext Business Ventures and Consultants, and Mr. Hamzat Chana, founder and CEO, Marja Domo Services Private Limited. I'd like to welcome all deans, head of the departments, and students of Manavrajna University of all departments, and all other participants external to our university who have joined this session. So with this, I'd like to invite Dr. Subodh Saleja of Management Department, who took the sole initiative of organizing this event of panel discussion today, to take over now and coordinate the event. So over to you, Dr. Subodh.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am, for the introduction, and a very warm welcome to all the panel speakers here. So it is great to have you. I think this was a much awaited event. After weeks, I think finally the day has come to kind of start with this session. And I would also like to welcome all the students and the other professionals who have taken out their time to join the session. So I'm sure we are going to make you your session very interesting. Great. All right. So entrepreneurship. I'm sure it is the buzzword, in the today's world. So you just ask anybody, says, okay, I want to become an entrepreneur. People have their dreams, their desires. But, what is the right way or the right manner to actually, is there a kind of a scientific way or a process or a path to become an entrepreneur? Or is it that the entrepreneurs are just born and, they just become entrepreneurs because they were, born with this quality of becoming an entrepreneur? So more such insights, we will be, having in the today's session. And also just to inform, this session is being recorded so that, even later on, it will be given for your reference. We will definitely put it onto the channel like YouTube so that it is readily available for your reference. Okay, great. So I think, first of all, we would like to, hear from our panel speakers that what has been their journey till now, in terms of entrepreneurship. So I would welcome Dr. Manoj, if you can tell about what is your entrepreneurial journey. And in fact, you are a serial investor. I think it's a very much, kind of a buzzword. Everybody, one is an investor, the other is, having multiple, companies all put together. So if you can throw some light about your journey, and then we will move on to the next in the panels as well. Dr. Manoj.
Okay, thanks a lot, and welcome to all participants who have come on the program, and thanks Manavrajna Innovation Council and Dr. Subodh for giving us an opportunity to share our experience. And I'm sure whatever we have learned related to entrepreneurial journey, and of course otherwise in our corporate career is not the agenda for discussion today. So I would park it aside just to touch upon. So I think I can give a quick brief of mine. I have two roles. One is the corporate role, which I have played for almost 36 years, been into auto industry, e-commerce industry, service industry for, I think I've been in the role of the CEO and CXOs for last 20 years, worked with almost 8 companies, and all of them were ranging from maybe 150 crore to 4,000 crore companies. I have managed companies up to 3,500. This has been the role. In terms of academics, I think I have been a learner, and that's where I think my academic and practitioner role comes. I did my doctorate only to satisfy my passion for learning. So I would say that's where I did my BTech, my MTech, my 2 MBAs in finance and marketing, and then further pursued the doctorate in innovation. So this is about me. And in terms of the corporate experience, which was huge, but this is not the right forum to share. But maybe few things in a sort of an elevator brief I can share. That some of the things which has helped me is I think prepare your forthcoming role upfront has been my approach all along. I think when you are in a junior role, do your MBA. When you are an MBA, prepare for the next role in terms of lateral or vertical, wherever you want to go. So one, I would say, learning for me has been that prepare well in advance and groom up yourself for a techno-commercial role. I would say that especially this is from the entrepreneurial perspective, my learnings I'm sharing, that every entrepreneur has to be a commercial person, a finance person also, in addition to his core competency, he could be a product man or a high-tech guy, or even he could be a, let's say, a commercial person, but he must have the product knowledge. So techno-commercial is the key going forward. So that's where I think our entire students and the aspiring entrepreneurs should look at this. What has also helped me learn is the higher end thing which I had to learn when I had to grow in my career, where inorganic growth, business planning, new projects, P&L management, large team management of 2,000 people and all. Every startup would sometime reach to those levels. So earlier you learn, and there is not only one way to learn is only through 30 years of experience. You can also learn it through reading, through interacting with people. Knowledge is power is my sum of this entire thing, and techno-commercial is the key. Sharing about my entrepreneurial journey, I think what I did in the corporate world in 36 years, I have done in 36 months now, I think in my entrepreneurial journey, where now I have 9 portfolio companies. I am founder in 6 of them, founder stroke co-founder, and 3 of them, 2 of them are international company, one Singapore, one US based, where I'm a vanilla investor. And there's one Indian company, which is a gamification sort of a Dream 11 platform. I am pure vanilla investor. So my approach always has been that invest and try to, I would say, add value of my experience, whatever I have got. So that's been my purpose of coming into the startup world. Said, I know whatever you have done in past, you can add a huge value to startups because they need this. They value, and possibly if they get a very good help. So these are some of the things about my experience.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Manoj, for your inputs. So I think let us ask Mr. Jude. So your experience has been into corporate. So if you can tell, like, what was the tipping point when you moved from a corporate role into becoming an entrepreneur? And if you can tell a brief about your organization, what is the your organization, your journey till now? If you can kindly describe that, yeah, sure.
Absolutely. But before that, I would like to thank Manav Rachna University, Dr. Susmita, Dr. Subodh, for giving us the wonderful opportunity to address students, young minds of India. And with regard to my journey into this space of entrepreneurship, is that post my MBA, I spent about 20 years in corporate marketing. I've started in advertising and spent a good chunk of my corporate life in IT marketing, with a specialization more on the lines of digital marketing. And during my tenure, especially in the last 10 years of my corporate career, I had a fantastic opportunity to interface with some of the leading minds in IT. I was associated with large enterprises. I was associated with companies like IBM and Dell. And, because of that, I had the opportunity to meet CTOs and CIOs of large corporates in India. And in all of these discussions, I think what came out very clear was, there's a skill gap and a knowledge gap. And so I wanted to do a certain contribution to the space. And I've always had the so-called entrepreneurial bug in me. I thought this probably could be a good space to contribute, and did a bit of a research for almost 2 years during weekends. And I realized that this is something that can actually have a potential impact on our students. So in 2018, I incorporated, and the vision was fundamentally is to bring technology education to every student in India and outside India, where they can potentially build demonstrable and employable skills. So that was the fundamental backbone of our vision that we have started. And my startup's name is Modo Edu Labs. And folks who are interested can always, learn more about us. It's modo.one is a website. It's modo.one. It's fairly easy to find. And now we are constantly, in the last 3 years since our incorporation, we are, we're learning a lot more. And now we're in the process of, building a much more bigger platform to offer a 360-degree learning premise, where they not only learn new skills, but also get to interface with a larger community in terms of learning, competitions, boot camps, certifications, and many more. So that's a journey so far. And this is where probably I would like to rest. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Jude. Now I'd like to ask Mr. Hormaz. So I'm sure you also had a long stint in the corporate, and so if you can tell about your current your setup, organization, and again what was that point when you really thought, okay, I have to move from now A to B. What was that turning point? Yes, thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Subodh. Thank you, Dr. Smita, for having me here. Hi, everybody. My name is Hormaz Charna. I'm the founder of a startup called Mergerdomo. By profession, I'm a corporate and investment banker with over 16 years of work experience. Primarily, have worked with Deloitte, Kotak Mahindra, and large financial institutions in their investment banking teams. Throughout have been on the financial advisory side. So primarily have been doing M&A, private equity advisory, both growth as well as stressed assets. So did that for almost 15 years. Then in 2016-17, I was working with a large corporate and advising or trying to help them on a overseas transaction. And they were wanting a very specific requirement in Vietnam, and they wanted a very specific company. And when I was, back then I was in Tata Capital, we had an office in Singapore, but 2-3 months went by and we could not help the client find any potential buy side. So that got me thinking in 2016 that is there any online platform where we can bring corporate buyers and sellers, investors, investment bankers together and use an algorithm to streamline this process. So I started doing some research, and to my surprise, there was not much in India on such lines. So I started, from 2016 to 17. All my weekends were dedicated to this project. I was completely bootstrapped, and I started, didn't watch not a single, even a movie, didn't go to the theater, and I was completely devoted on making an MVP. So by 2018, when I realized that yes, now I'm at a crossroads where, either I, go full time into this, or I dump the project. But I have developed a very, very strong belief and faith in this project. So I decided to quit in 2018 June. In fact, I just, it was just exactly on yesterday only. It was a 2-year anniversary. And
Congratulations.
I was bootstrapped. I hired a couple of juniors from Amity College, BBA freshers. And then ever since didn't look back, and I will share my journey as we go along.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Hormaz. So coming back to Dr. Manoj, so there are some kind of critical factors, so to say, which you would like to tell to our students. So if we may put in this way, that what are the critical factors that makes an entrepreneur successful? If we can have some points on this from you. Yeah.
Okay, I would say from 2 points. As the investor, what people look for, and I would also, being founder in some of them, also see that as the founding team, what kind of challenges you face, and hence you should guard against them. I would say critical factor wise, you might call it's my obsession with knowledge, but I strongly believe that the entrepreneurs who come with a strong knowledge about what they are planning to do are more likely to succeed. So I would say that you must have the knowledge of the field, and it's not necessary to do 30 years stint or 10 years stint. You have to build the knowledge in an accelerated way of reading. So one would be the second, I would say, critical success factor is the founding team and a core team. Sometimes people expand the founding team and the knowledge by having advisors, investor, outsource people. All these are to build on your complementary skill. Where you lack, you have advisor, you have co-founder. But a founding team is the strength of founding team are, for example, skill set, experience, and more importantly, passion, which all of them subscribe to that vision and passion. That would be extremely important for a longer term relationship of the founding team. I would say super commercial clarity is the one. I have seen many founders, although I am associated with 9, but must have explored 500 startups during the process in the last 3 years.
Sure.
Commercial clarity is missing in many young generation or relatively mature startups or entrepreneurs. So I think they should quickly build. You can't always carry your CFO along, but you have to have broader understanding about, okay, what's valuation, what is funding, when break even comes, what is the kind of rationale for valuation, what is discounted capital. So I would say that will be important. Commercial clarity in addition to your product clarity.
Okay.
Then of course a sharper clarity on the business model, product market mix, because a lot of them people come because they like an idea. They have not seen it in the market, where is the addressable, where do they fit in, etc. Wherever you subscribe or seek the knowledge from outside to build on your weaknesses, then as far as possible, people who are onboarded should have skin in the game, not pure pay and serve relationship. Then that kind of passion also doesn't come from them. So I think I have been very strong promoter of skin in the game. Either the people who are advisor also should invest, or they should have strong ESOP or sweat equity, or such thing, meaning they become part of a sense of belongingness goes very high. And last but not the least, I would say, is the innovative approach. You can't have a Me Too kind of a startup. Even for example, Ola was a Me Too for Uber, let's say. But I would not rate it as Me Too because they picked up different geography, different delivery method, different kind of scale, different country where the tier 2 and 3 are very, very difficult to reach. So I would say innovativeness is the key in startup, which you need from the day one till even you exit. You have to be innovative in everything. This is my opinion.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Manoj. So moving on to Mr. Hormaz. So in terms of this taking this point ahead in terms of this commercial preparedness. So was it from your experience that it came to you working with the companies that how you were like ready in terms of the financial management and thinking, okay, this is going to be the investment which I plan to do and these are the returns like that. So that really did that help? I mean, if you can throw some light on that.
Yeah, sure. I think I'll take forward from Manoj's points. They're very, very important. So when I quit my job, one important thing is that I believed in what I had learned in the past 15 years. So one advice is here is that, at least from an experienced person, I chose the field which I had learned a lot. But for the young lot, that may not apply because you have at scale 0 right now. You have the whole career in front of you. Right. So, but so of course I did my, so from a technical side, what Manoj has said, I totally agree in terms of doing your homework, in terms of your understanding. I would like to add a softer side to this, Subodh. And my message is that we must have a very strong conviction or very strong vision first of all. So if all the juniors are thinking that I want to do this, there has to be a strong conviction. Aaj mujhe ye karna hai, 2 mahine baad wo karunga. That should not be the case. So have a strong conviction, ready to be work very, very hard, extremely hard, with passion and grit. Agar ye aapko karna hai, then forget everything else. Doing 2 things, 3 things, ye bhi karunga, because the generation of today is having that issue of being connected to one thing for a longer time because of the information overload. Be passionate with what you do it with grit. One thing which I've learned is very, very important is ignore the naysayers. आपको 100 में से 99 लोग बोलने वाले हैं entrepreneur बन रहे हो, क्या कर रहे हो? What is this? Our Indian society doesn't have an entrepreneur mindset. Especially the middle class. I don't blame anybody because our parents and their parents were not exposed to that. So it was a very logical thing, but today things are changing. So I would advise, if once you say mujhe karna hai, you've done your rock solid homework, ignore the naysayers. Thoda aise maise hua, dekha maine tujhe bola tha nahi hoga. Please remove the noise. Don't fall for that.
Sure.
And keep the faith. Very important to keep the faith and belief ke nahi, aaj nahi ho raha, hoga. I have that vision, belief. So these softer things as an entrepreneur are as important or maybe more important than just playing with numbers.
Okay.
So I would advise all young students to get these qualities, start inculcating these.
Okay. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Ormas. So moving on to Mr. Jude, would you like to have some, like say tips for these, young budding, so-called, who want to be entrepreneurs? Some, pointers from your side. That what is it that they really need to kind of have with them in order to become an entrepreneur? Yeah.
So I think very few more points in addition to Manoj and Ormas, so that I don't want to repeat. But there are a couple of points, and one of them being, I think Manoj rightly pointed out, passion is important, commitment is important, but also curiosity to learn on the go all the time is going to be important. Because when we get into the mindset of, okay, I know the market, I know the space, and that is it, then your learning stops. The day the learning stops, your progression also stops. So fundamentally, you need to understand the problem. You need to be passionately closer to the end user. You need to know that the end users are really going to pay for the solution that you are offering. That's a very critical, because your idea could be fantastic. Maybe you're really committed. But if people are saying, I don't have to pay for the service that you're offering while I'm getting it free of cost or maybe cheaper, then you're bound to fall, right? So, and the most important, because your question was about what are the critical factors for a success, was one of the important things is execution. We can talk all day long, right? You could have a fantastic slides, got all the numbers right, but at the end of the day, what is important is how are you going to execute, right? So those are the finer points in addition to fantastic points already brought by Manoj and Ormas.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Jude. So coming back to Dr. Manoj, so now thing is, when a student, we have heard the terms like say, elevator pitch and pitching for, money, funding to the angel investors and VCs, like you. So what is it that should be the preparedness of that student or that person? If you can throw some pointers onto that. Thank you. Dr. Manoj.
Yeah. Okay. So I think there will be three things which would be, I would say, necessary. One is when you reach an investor, you need to have your fundamental homework and documents ready, which could be your pitch, which could be your business planning document, which could be your P&L, your valuation, what is your ask, why are you asking, how much you are asking, why do you say this is the valuation, what is your future. These are, I would say, the harder aspect thing.
Sure.
Some more homework could be related to your market research, which product, what is your USP, what is your differentiator, which all should be necessary for the investor to understand. But which investor do you go is something which I would like to say based on my experience. When either startup reach me or I do a lot of time reverse pitch and I go to startup and say, I want to invest in your company, I like your company. If that is so, and that in reverse pitching, sometimes I have to sell myself as an investor also. So I would say this aspect of reverse pitching, that I think the entrepreneur should also reach to an investor who is actually from a long-term perspective, not only somebody who gives you the money and just you grab him. Because especially in the initial stage of the funding. See, today Mukesh Ambani, you buy Reliance shares, he doesn't know who is Subodh, who is Manoj. That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you are going to an investor, number one, you should look at, is he right for your size of the investment you are looking for? Is he right for the sector you are interested? Is he active in that sector? I invested in EdTech 5 years before and I am not keen, then I am not the right investor. Can I keep adding value? Should be the spirit which should be there for the size I am looking for investment. And can I also be good enough for the future rounds? Because most of the investment I made starting from 5 lakhs, I have gone with the same startup up to 45, 50 lakhs also in each of them. What it means is those startups should look at the same investor for value addition, for next rounds of funding, for helping them going international. So a selection of investor also would be very, very important. And lastly, from investor perspective point of view, startup should prepare WIFM for the investor. That what is in it for him if the investor is clear that, I will add this value. This is your capital appreciation program. From here till next 5 years, you are going to be a unicorn. So my capital appreciation is this.
Okay.
This, I think, makes the investor buy into your story. This, I would see it at this point.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Manoj. So moving on to Mr. Hormaz. So in terms of your experience in terms of like funding. So what was that preparation pitch or anything? If you can throw some light, particular to your business.
Yeah, sure. So,
Sure.
after quitting for almost 6 months, I was bootstrapped.
Okay.
Then, I met Dr. Manoj, and, we came together, partnered, and then we started, we realized that we'll need to raise some funding rounds. So we did a very thorough homework in terms of preparing our information memorandum. But more
Okay.
importantly, the business model that was made was very, very thorough. It was right to the second decimal.
Okay.
And that should include, when I say it's not just an Excel sheet, you need to, a lot of entrepreneurs are focusing only on their product and services. But you
Yes.
need
Yes.
to conceive an overall plan, projections, market size, competition, unit economics, marketing strategy,
Okay. Okay.
expansion. So having 20 years of experience, that helped us, and having a good, team together, we could pitch and prepare a well-rounded document, which then we propose to a smaller circle. So
Okay. Okay.
so it's my advice is always go to an initial smaller circle, preferably first friends and family, and then maybe a seed round for some angels either in your network or in your in the college. It will be difficult to get a professional network, but maybe through friends and family you can collect a smaller seed round. But one thing I would like to advise over here is be very, very cost conscious. Supposing you get some money, or even if you're bootstrapped, don't waste money on fancy co-working spaces, buying Mac laptops. Don't do that. Be very, very frugal with your money. That is something which is very important to survive.
Okay.
And I think Manoj also mentioned this. It's a marriage with the investor. So it is not कि वो पैसा दे रहा है ले लो.
Okay.
Initially, you may have to do that because you are desperate. But sooner or later, you have to realize that he is there for the long term and he should handhold you. If he is not aligned with your vision, he will become edgy. He will become worried. मेरा पैसा डूब रहा है, मेरा पैसा डूब रहा है. And then they will start, it becomes a little difficult. So selecting the investor is important, but I think at your initial stage, that may not be very easy to do.
Okay.
And briefly, then we raised a second round. We went to larger investors. The family offices we approached. One large family office invested in us, and then we are progressing step by step. But there are a lot of learnings in terms of one thing which I mentioned. What I would like to mention is that as you go along, building the right team is very important. Don't try to do everything on your own. Bring a nice team together, and since you are all young, many of you can come together and take important roles. So that way the cost is not an issue.
Okay. Yeah, so that's very good input here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ormas. So moving on to Mr. Jude. So can you tell about in terms of maybe your first round, or as they call it, the first round of funding? So how was that? How easy or difficult was your journey in terms of getting the first funding for your venture, Mr. Jude?
Sure. I think, like I said, when I started almost 3 years prior to the incorporation, we spent a good amount of time with our primary target market, which is actually the children in school, right? Almost all the weekends we spent towards conducting programs. I was personally involved in most of the programs. I used to teach many of the batches myself. I think most important aspect as the groundwork before even you approach funding stage is whether your idea is strong and whether your MVP is strong enough. I think that's a fundamental aspect. In addition to all the points that was called out by my colleagues here, one thing is fundamental to your progress and potential funding is that the clarity and consistency in the approach that you take. And but at the same time, funding isn't one size fits all. So the reason I want to talk about is that maybe funding is not for everybody, right? So there are many companies, and we can give lots of example of how they have survived without funding. A good example probably is like one of the recently well-known companies, Zerodha, talking about how they are able to grow within this. So there are many companies at the same time which have gone bust, still have taken heavy funding. So there's no model is like there is a structured path on funding. As Manoj beautifully called out, have a fundamental notion of your market space. Understand that an investor, especially angel investors, seed level investors, are looking from a long-term growth perspective. So they are almost getting into your company as a partner. Right? So it's very important to know that they are in there for a long term. They are looking at the growth of the company, of the team, right? So it is really that level of focus is important, and frugality, again, not many people talk about it. So I really appreciate what Hormuz brought up. I think that in a way it's there in a cultural setup, but somehow we don't see that much often in a startup space now. And finally, in terms of what is important is that the mentoring that happens as part of the funding process. That's very important, right? So many angel investors who come on board bring their expertise. I think that is something that you really need to harness for your advantage. So learn, make progress, and manage the finances from there on. I think that should be the motto when it comes to the funding part.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think very beautiful points by all our esteemed panel speakers here. Okay, so now I think next goes to the question in terms of, there are when students start up in terms of, and they will try out, new ideas, new ventures. And sometimes everything will not go the way you want. Like, the first startup you have done, maybe there's a failure. So the thing is, met students in the entrepreneurship cell as well. So what should be that how one should handle failures. So if maybe we can ask Dr. Manoj to talk that what we should do in terms of handling failures, how to deal with that because it's a high stress. So how do we do that? Yeah, how do we handle that?
Dr. Subodh, then maybe first let's see what we do so that we don't fail. Of course, whatever we do, in the startup we fail 2 times a day on some of the other things. I mean, today you plan taking an interview, the guy doesn't turn up. Tomorrow you want an investment, the guy says, no, I decided not to invest because I will have invested somewhere. So I would not call it a gross failure, but such shockers and surprises will keep coming. So first thing we should plan so that they don't come. I would little think on that so that I think we are proactively trying to reduce chances. As a startup, possibly we should read, understand, contemplate, plan, have plan A, plan B, even before you execute any of them, so that you are preparing yourself that in case if this goes wrong, I will do this. So this kind of an approach doesn't come. We plan something and try to do this without even doing thorough study, thorough, let's say, discussion with the advisors, mentors, experts. Meaning, I would say a sound plan largely ensures or reduces the chance of failure. So, and a backup plan makes sure that if X fails, Y. This will also reduce your trauma of failure. Because it's not a failure. You failed from, let's say, X investor, but you want to buy. So I would say that is the first. Now, assumingly you fail still, or even one failure you had, you are taking it maybe to your heart. I would say that bounce back is the spirit in startup. If you are not prone to, let's say, face failures boldly, don't come to startup. You will be failing many times, multiple. So first is build resilience. That I would say is the one thing one should have. Another failure is a lesson on the go. And I think very few people do. In corporate world does it very, very meticulously. I have practiced it for 30 years. They document their failures. They say you must record your lesson learned, document, advertise, publicize, post it that here we have failed, share with your team. So that at least next time it will be.
Okay. So that's great. So in terms of kind of learning from the failures and then better planning.
Failure, in the startup world, failure is glorified and not taken back. Even though in India that stigma of failure is there, but that also is going away. And in the startup world, it is absolutely gone. So if you tell I was a startup and this startup failed, and then you apply for a job, A startup
Okay.
will take you more heavily than they take a fresh guy. Because they
Okay.
know that this guy has faced those challenges.
Absolutely. So it's
Yeah.
like even somebody, who faces in a startup, he's like more ready pickup guy especially for a corporate,
Absolutely.
because they know that he has been the risk-taking ability, attitude, and go-getter, and he has tried his best. That's fine. If he must have learned in that failure, basically, that is there. Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Manoj. Mr. Hormaz, just a kind of a generic thing. So maybe has there been any kind of a thing, maybe in a school, college life, maybe the subject or something which you think something like this happened, and then you overcome that kind of a failure? Did that ever happen, kind of a thing, or maybe a story you would like to share? It's like always been successful kind of thing. Yeah.
No, I think there are always certain, failure is a big word, but there are,
Sure.
there are always, we keep faltering in life.
Okay.
And in startup world, Subodh, actually it is standing up and, after, what Manoj very well put it, that first be prepared. If
Yeah.
you're not, I think what is important for the younger generation is to be strong over here. Psychologically,
Okay.
you have to be prepared. Problem, I think, is that you tend to break down. All of us break down.
Okay.
It's not that. So
Yeah.
if we are mentally prepared, if we can take some, coach ourselves ke nahi yaar, failure to aana hi aana hai, and I have to be prepared
Sure.
mentally. So
Okay.
I think today mental coaching is also very, very important.
Sure.
But along with that, having a never say die attitude, and I again
Okay.
repeat, grit and determination होना बहुत जरूरी है. Failure हुआ,
Okay.
कोई बड़ा contract, and failure doesn't mean your startup is closed. Failure
Yes.
can
Yeah.
be your good team member left you, a huge contract was just about to happen, fell apart. You're almost,
Okay.
running out of cash. There are a lot of things. Investor, as Manoj rightly pointed out, investor ने पहले हाँ बोला फिर ना बोल दिया.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
all these are stress givers, very, very good. I will not call them failures, but for the youngsters, it is very important to be resilient at these functions. कि चलो, I'm going to my first investor. First investor ने मना कर दिया, ये like यार ये नहीं चलने वाले. No, you will have to go to 5, 10, 15, 20 and say कि भैया होगा ही होगा. Again, that belief, faith, very important. So that's why I'm trying to give a lot of psychological answers rather than technical. And one final thing is that be open to listening to your team, co-founders, teammates. They are talking to the customers. And if you are not flexible and you are stuck in a yahi hai, then failure is you are embracing failure. So be open to change and saying, nahi, okay, apna ye plan nahi thika, let me be open. So flexibility will also help you from certain failures.
Okay, so being flexible, being agile, adapting to the change, listening to the customers, all this will help us, being, ready to that change. And I think very beautifully put that failure is not about a startup failing, but, as you said, a team member leaving or something, that's also small, these stress givers, but then
you mentioned the word stress. Stress is today coming to all of us for really very small things, and we need to learn how to handle that.
Okay, great. So thank you, Mr. Ormas. So moving on to Mr. Jude. So any tips from your side on this, how for the students specifically, this young generation, because they try to switch on very fast, their attention span is less. So what do you think that how they should kind of be ready to embrace in case so-called the difficulties and kind of moving ahead in terms of their startup or idea?
Absolutely. I think, I was listening to a podcast today morning by a founder of the company named ChargeUp, and he put it beautifully. Either you win or you learn, right?
Okay.
So, and so-called these failures are all something that happens on a day-to-day basis, right?
Okay.
So attitude matters. If you come with the right attitude that come what may, I'm going to progress further, because no startup that I have ever come across, whether it's successful, global, unicorn, whatnot, I don't think they've had a straight line. There is no straight line in a startup, right? So attitude matters, especially in entrepreneurship. So if you choose to learn, you will move on, right? That's a fundamental approach. So, and at the same time, if you don't learn from it, there is a good chance that you're going to repeat that. That is something that an entrepreneur has to avoid. And if you can learn from somebody else's mistakes or somebody else's failure, you're even smarter, right?
Okay.
So even the bigger, well-known entrepreneurs, and you want to call it for example, a Bezos or a Musk, they are not overnight successes, right? They've worked hard, they put in the right set of attitude, they've gone through all the difficult times, ups and downs. But what we unfortunately see was only that they are billionaires, but they have put in a lot of effort. They've gone through very difficult times to get here. So failure, or if you want to put it, obstacles or hurdles on the way are a given. If you think that maybe I'm in a safer place, I may be in a safer, better position, it is not going to be the case. I think so. That fundamentally start with the right attitude that it is going to be difficult. I am going to face hurdles, but come what may, I'm going to persevere. I think that is the fundamental aspect of. So the way I will put it is, every day comes with its own challenges. Be ready to face them with the right positive attitude. So I would only say that good luck to all the young bright minds out here, right? You need to pursue entrepreneurship. We are not trying to scare you. You need to pursue entrepreneurship, because as a country, we can create, there is a room for a lot more people to create businesses. There's a room for a lot more people to provide employment to others.
Sure.
But all it takes is that, as Hormuz beautifully put it, grit and courage. And the right attitude is all matters.
Okay, great. So I think very nice inputs coming here from everybody here. So I think there's one question, which I would like to in fact ask everybody here on the panel. So generally, is it like, a single person, one man army, or you would suggest there should be a team, a minimum two, to start up, a business? What you would suggest, a team or a one person, like so-called a founder only, but no co-founder? Your suggestions are, maybe you can. Maybe Dr. Manoj can.
Dr. Subodh, I like to break your sequence of starting with me. I also need to prepare sometimes for more from there.
Okay.
Before I pass on
so somebody can volunteer.
Anyone you select, I would add to the last question which we talked about. I would say that even if the failure comes and you are a human being, whatever resilience you will have some problem, some emotional outbreak. Then I would suggest two things, or one only. Have some shoulder to cry on, or somebody to look back, or a sounding board, or an advisor, or a mentor, or an expert, or somebody whom you can look up to. Everybody should have them in their personal life as well as on this, because you have limitations even to comprehend a failure. So I mean, you go to somebody, he sees from an outside in perspective. But then he will say, oh God, you've gone wrong there, do this, okay, don't worry, you do it like this, don't worry, this happens. See, a lot of times that kind of thing will come not from you, because founding team is so closely knit now that they don't think beyond what they discuss. You have to have some outside in perspective.
Okay, that's very true. In fact, when I quit my job, तो कुछ नहीं था. It was like zero. All I had was my parents who were a little shaky कि क्या कर रहा है. And my wife was like, okay, yaar, chalo, let's see what is going to happen. Apart from that, there was nothing. But so coming back to so that sounding board thing, Manoj, is very, very well placed. So, but I did I am a GK buff, so I'm always looking. That's why I thought I'll answer this question, and maybe the the bright minds over here would enjoy it. Both sides are successful. You have Zuckerberg, you have Jeff Bezos, and you have in India Vijay Shekhar, if I am not mistaken. These are success stories of individuals who have gone ahead. But the team is always there.
Absolutely.
But then you have Steve Jobs, who had Steve Wozniak. You have Bill Gates, who had Paul Allen. You have Google. Everybody knows there too. Warren Buffett always had Charles Munger. So it seems कि ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि right and wrong नहीं है. Perspective from a very, very homegrown perspective, I feel it is always better to have a co-founder, and exactly from the point of a sounding board. Support mechanism चाहिए हमें. Give new ideas, challenge you on your ideas. And today, if you will see, another very important point is you can divide roles. Rather than having some fat salary for some CEO, COO, if you 4 or 5 kids come together and say, मेरी strength here, let's divide the roles. I'll look at marketing, I'll look at operations. deep down into it. So I think that is very important. So bottom line, I feel is don't rush into it. The partner must be trustworthy.
Yes.
Varna, it is like a marriage. If you get the right partner, you are halfway to heaven. Otherwise, you all know kya hota hai. So, I mean, it's you need to, if you find that right person, go ahead. Not jabarasti ki you need another one, so I'll pick up somebody. That may turn out to be disastrous. Yeah.
Mr. Jude would like to add some.
No, I pretty much second everyone's opinion here. I'm of the belief that none of us is as strong as all of us. The more you're able to bring in the core team or the founding team with the complementary skills, I think you have a better shot at getting the idea to an execution phase. And so yes, you need a shoulder to hang on to, but at the same time, when you have success, you also need somebody to celebrate it with. So there is always a good, it's always good. And in my case, of course, Manoj knows. In my case, it so happens I was lucky enough to have my own wife as a co-founder. So yes, 24/7 we talk about the business, but that apart, we bring in the complementary skills and we were able to hit it off from the day one. So I think we were able to progress much more farther and quicker. Yes. But yes, again, to sum it up, it's always good to have a core founding team with the complementary skills. Makes a lot of difference, helps you in your journey, makes your journey far more easier and pleasant.
Okay. All right. So great. So thank you for all these inputs. So one question is that students, although like in a university, most of the universities in India now they have this Institute Innovation Cell, driven through Ministry of Education. So it's like a part of the mandate that need to have this place and drive innovation in the country. So any other forum which I think the panel may suggest that the students should join, so that kind of being more prepared, ready, how to go about it, this entrepreneurship journey. Yeah. Any suggestions? So maybe anybody can take it up. Yeah.
I would like to start.
Sure.
So as you rightly said, I think the university or the college is the best place to start, because you know the institution very well. You studied there 3-4 years. You know the professors, and almost I'm sure it's happening at MRU, but I'm also hearing a lot of good institutions bring in industry people into the institution to connect what we call as the industry connect program. So nothing like starting your journey in your incubation or an acceleration program that is happening in your university itself. In addition to that, there are a lot of places where young entrepreneurs can go to, places where what we call as the TIE or the industry entrepreneurs. I mean, they're one of the well-known groups for startups. In fact, they have this program called TIE Young Entrepreneurship Program. You probably may know that. So they are trying to inculcate and bring a lot more young entrepreneurs into the mainstream. And, and one area where many people overlook is the Government of India's schemes on startup focus. Startup India has many schemes running for young entrepreneurs, young and bright entrepreneurs. So there are, in addition to the central government's initiatives, every state government has its own policies, its own initiatives, funding, mechanisms. Many of them even have specifically for women entrepreneurs, young, right out of college. So I would urge all the bright students here who are considering entrepreneurship to also to look at what Government of India is able to offer at this point in time.
Okay. So great, thank you. So in terms of, I'd like to just maybe have your vision for your organizations ahead, maybe from each one of you, that what is your vision for your organization? Yes. In future, what is your plan? What is the vision? What do you think about?
Sure. Thank you, Doctor. I'll just take a minute over here. So I didn't, to introduce our, platform. So I'll just take a minute and then share our vision. So coming from an investment banking background, what we have developed is an online algo-based investment banking platform where our vision is to help SMEs and startups in their organic and inorganic growth journeys. So it's a simple two-step process that if the startup or SME is not prepared in terms of their strategic plans, we come together and help them prepare their information memorandums, pitch decks, get them mentors, help them for funding, and once they're ready, we run them through our online system, which is an algo-based system, and find the right investors. And if it is for M&A purposes, find the right counterparty.
Sure. Okay.
So that's why how we are trying to digitize the IB space by bringing M&A, fundraise, joint ventures, technology assistance on a platform-driven process.
Okay.
We are, since we're getting a lot of data, structured data, our plan is to make more and more products for each user. For example, we have just launched, and Dr. Subodh, we would really love to showcase our new product, which is a startup scorecard.
Okay.
Any of your students think that they want to make a startup, we have developed an algo-based startup scorecard.
Okay.
You will come to know how investment ready are you, and that will give you a score.
Okay.
So I think this is off the cuff. I thought this would be good.
Yeah, sure.
Share it with you. We'll get back to you on that separately.
Okay.
So we're developing products for our user bases, for investors.
Okay.
And lastly, we have a vision of internationalization where we're looking at entering at least 15 countries, because you will all appreciate that thanks to the internet, now it's a global village. And India is #1 destination for FDI. So we are very keen to channelize the foreign money into Indian startups and SMEs.
Okay. So I think that's especially for the students' interest, I think. And it is going to be useful, definitely. So we'll, kindly take it forward. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Manoj, in terms of, thank you. So Dr. Manoj, in terms of, vision, like you talk about different startups. So, how this activity of vision building, vision founding, how is it that, for an entrepreneur? If you can throw some light on this vision thing. Yeah. Dr. Manoj,
Yeah. So one is, of course, my personal vision. And second, how people should look at visioning. So we discussed a little early on vision being an important point where people should look at. So I have to look at my own vision also. So my vision, one way is very simple, that I need to be, in the next 5 years, I should be having 100 startups as my portfolio companies. And quite a few of them should be unicorn. And I think even today, out of 9, I can expect at least 4 or 5 would be unicorn by 2026. So to meet my dream of 100 startups, I need to exit few startups at an appropriate time so that I have funds. I don't have Mukesh Ambani to fund me every day.
Absolutely.
So for that, I need to arrange. And in terms of visioning, I said, yes, it's something which is an accumulation of your passion, your skill set, your inner drive for adding value to this world, value to yourself, maybe solve some very intense problem which is very dear to you. A lot of startups I have heard, including these international startups which I was hearing yesterday. Somebody came out who has 30 years experience in Pfizer, came out with a cancer drug for blood cancer, a unique delivery system where you don't have to inject every time. You put a patch for 7 days, the drug comes out every 1 hour. Now I'm trying to invest into this startup, and why he did this, his sister was having the problem for last 5 years, terminally sick. Every time injection given to her, overdose, dose happens, after 6 hours the effect goes down, again injection. So something which, I mean, the vision would come from your passion, your innate desire to solve a problem. So look at, think that what is most dear to you, which you can commit your life for. I would say that's what should be the vision, not कि मुझे unicorn बनना है या मेरे 3 दोस्त मिलके चालू कर दिया. It's a serious issue, I would say, and everyone checks it. If you ask me, my first question to anybody or any first slide I want to see in any pitch deck is what is the vision of this guy and how rightly he has envisioned it rightly
in his mind.
Not just for the sake of writing he has written. This is my take on this.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Manoj. Mr. Jude would like to add something on this this topic, vision. vision statement, vision creation?
No, I think
Okay.
fundamentally, that's what I called out in the earlier question
Okay.
as well. Clarity is very important. So,
Clarity.
If you very clearly know what is that you're looking for, what is that you're building, what is your future, how many people are you going to impact? Because all those clarity is what to give you the motivation on a day-to-day basis. Because we also spoke about failures. So everyday hurdles, how do you move forward is not just about passion and everything, but you also need that motivation. And the motivation largely comes from your vision, your impact, your future potential. In terms of our vision, I think I stated it very clearly that we are looking to be the number one technology education vendor, not only in India but also in the key markets or key education markets in the world. So to that effect, today we have 300 hours of content, 1,200 units of lesson learning units, and so we are in the right path at this point in time. Now we are building our platform to make it bigger, to accommodate more students, and and in the next 3 years, we want to make sure that our platform is able to reach at least 1 million students who are looking to enrich their technology skills. So that's our goal, and that is what is motivating us at today point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dude. So I think in today, if you look at everybody here, I think it was so many enlightening points, we have got from the three esteemed panelists here, starting from the entrepreneurial journey, what are the critical success factors, in becoming an entrepreneur, and how, one should be be ready in terms of, pitching to the investor, what all should be your preparedness, and especially about, the market research. And as you can see, the panelists, they spend almost 2-3 years of their weekends, no movies, nothing, just focusing on doing the research before finally taking a decision that, okay, it's a go decision now. And I'm ready to part my, whatever journey till now and move on to the next journey, which is there. And in terms of another very new thing, in fact, that's a learning, I think I also got it here, which was that in terms of failure, is not about a failure of a startup, but in terms of, maybe a team member leaves you or the fund, is coming down. There's so many ways in which, you can treat this, and how to deal with the stress factors is that more prepared you are, the lesser is the chances of, your startup failing. And the clarity of the vision, which is very important here in your brain, in your mind. What is it that you exactly want to do, and how much passionate you are with your idea, and not having like 20 ideas put together, but with that one idea which you have. How do you want to take it to the world? How you want to transform it? And how do you want to add value to these so-called the customers out there? Because there's a need, somebody out there who's going to take your idea, buy that idea, which is anyways drive the revenue streams for you. So ultimately, I think very, very great inputs which we got in terms of, the having the shoulder to cry on, and a support structure, very important, friend, family, person to go to first. Where do you go for your funding and ventures, and then how that. So having that, I think, very good structure around of support, I think very important. And having obviously a co-founder support is definitely great there. And forums, we talked about TIE and other forums as mentioned. And in terms of vision, I think that's the key part here. What is it that you want to do? I think these questions like say why, when, where, how, all these things come into place, and having a clarity on each these things, I'm sure that will help students and all those who have joined in the session today. So I think word would be less to thank you the speakers here, and in fact everybody who has joined. But formally, for a word of thanks, I would request Dr. Susmita to please take over the baton from me and take the proceedings ahead. Thank you.
Sure. Just one question I can see in the chat box from Dishni Cox. So can we have that answered? So the question is, for any startup, how much financial aid is being provided to start any business?
Well, actually, it depends on you. Need to first make your plan. And you need to be ready that I am needing this kind of money, and then it depends. We need to see where can we go, in terms of financial aid, depending on the schemes that are there as the government schemes or the schemes, or directly, we go to angel investors. So I don't think there is any such direct answer for a financial aid. How much is being prepared?
And the justification of what you were asking for, basically. With your roadmap, right? With your business model and roadmap.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, I think we have come to the concluding part of the session. So my sincere thanks to all the panelists who took out their valuable time from their very, very busy schedule to be here with us today for this panel discussion. It has been very valuable, insightful, and beneficial for our students, and wonderful and pragmatic suggestions came up from your experiential learning, you being the real entrepreneurs, so real experience. I know you speak out of your experience, and so it was very beneficial, I think, for our faculty, for our students, faculty members, and for all who joined the session. A lot of takeaways, I believe, from this session. And my sincere thanks to deans, head of the department, students, and all session participants who are even, external to our university. So sincere thanks to Dr. Subodh for organizing such a beautiful session, such an informative, insightful, and practical, helpful session. Thanks to all our IIC and eSale Entrepreneurship Cell faculty members and IIC and Entrepreneurship Cell students for coordinating this event, disseminating the information of the event, and volunteering for issuing certificates to all the participants. So the last thing I will say before concluding is that on the chat box there is a link given by Dr. Subodh and later on by me as well. So please take out 2 minutes. This is for all my participants to fill up the form so that we can issue the certificate to you. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you.
Dr.
Thank you for
Subodh.
the opportunity.
Dr. Sushmita, it was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Made us think,
And I wish.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, please. Thank you very much.
Advice. We look forward to such kind of interesting sessions with you all. If you can spare